All right, so I hope it's recording. Okay, so previously we were talking about we actually talked about a lot, and today I'd like to begin with talking about formatting. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So once we have this, so let's assume you are typing something, and then you have this. This is what you have. Okay, just a bunch of text, paragraphs, block paragraphs. So the next thing you need to do is to format. So initially you were talking about the APA. So, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous session that we had, that it became necessary at some point for institutions to come about with a method of harmonizing, okay, and producing or putting forward some standards, so that when students do type, okay, it's across, it's the same font and style, spacing across everyone. This just makes it easier for lecturers, to sort of just read through, grade you, so that because everything now is been harmonized. Because if you just tell people, just type the answer, do not handwrite, just type the answer, you're going to have all manner of things. Some people will use weird fonts, others will use bigger fonts, others will use weird colors, red, green, and this is disturbing from a lecturer's perspective, because you just from reading a paper written using this font, and you go on to the next paper, it's in a very difficult font to read. So one of the organizations or institutions that came up with with some standards, okay, is the American Psychological Association. So according to them, they recommend that whenever you're typing, ensure your text is in Times New Roman. They also allow other fonts, but at this point, I'd like you to just stick with Times New Roman, because it's the most popular. In fact, many teachers and lecturers will only recognize this font, although they also allow Arial 10, point 10. They also allow Georgia, I believe. And let me just see. So these are just the fonts I'm talking about. We have Calibri, Calibri Light, Times New Roman. We have a bunch of fonts here. So they recommend that whenever you're typing, you use any of these. But for some reason, many people in the academic field, they just stick to this one, Times New Roman 0.12. So whenever you want to type anything, just ensure you're using 0.12 Times New Roman, 0.12 Times New Roman. So I'm using Microsoft Office, so I'm not sure how that will look when you're using the other fonts, the other software, sorry, like if you're using Pages. But there should be an option where you can select this font and the size. So that is that. So if you are using Office like me, Office Word, you can instruct the software to set this at the default font. There's a way you can set this as the default font. So anytime you open the software, you launch the software, it will just automatically use this font. So the other thing, according to APA as well, is that the spacing should be double spacing, or 2.0. So the spacing they're referring to is the space between, for example, this line and this line. Okay, so if I was gonna, just draw some lines to demonstrate that. So the spacing they're referring to is the spacing between this line and this line. So this is already double spacing. If I was to change it to single spacing, you'd see the lines will be closely packed together. Like in this case, you can see the lines are closely packed together. And there's a problem with this, especially when you're reading this, because it is very easy for you to repeat a line. Maybe you are reading Makeba died, and then, when you get to this point, you want to go to the next line, you can realize that you still go back to the line that you've just read because of the fonts, the lines are so close. Okay, so they recommend using double spacing, which is 2.0. That is adequate. So again, if you did not tell students to do this, you realize most of them will use other spacing. There's also 3. You can see the spacing now. The lines are widely spaced. So for APA, we're going to use double spacing. Another thing they also recommend is that, I hope you can still see my screen. At any point you stop seeing my screen, please let me know so that I check that. I've realized that sometimes it just stops. So the other thing is that to indicate that a new paragraph has started, the first line of every paragraph starts indented. So in this case, I'm going to just push it a little bit inside to indent. So indenting means you just push it a little forward, okay? So the standard is 1/2 inch, which is just the default tab key, okay? If you just click the default tab key, I don't know if I have my on-screen keyboard, I'll demonstrate it. So just click the tab key on your keyboard to push it ahead a 1/2 inch. Just click tab key once. So this one shows that this is a new paragraph which has started here. So if this was another paragraph, you do the same for that. And again, same for this. So it shows that every time there's this indentation, it shows that a new paragraph has started. So that's another thing according to APA. APA also have a cover page. So whenever you have an assignment done, APA require you to have a separate cover page, which should be separate from the rest of the paper. So the cover page, let's just create that cover page. Let's just insert a page break so that we have a blank page above this text. So, so this is your cover page, the empty page. I don't know if I can just zoom out so that you can see that blank page. Yeah, so if it's not working, but you can see there's a blank page here before the text begins. So on the cover page, they require you to write a few things. So 4 lines from the top. So we're gonna skip 4 lines by clicking the enter key. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 lines from the top, you're gonna write the title of the assignment. And then you skip 3 lines, 1, 2, 3 lines. And then you write your name, then followed by the name of your school, institution. You also need to write the course name and code. And then you also need to write the name of the instructor. And then the date, the due date. So once you have these, you need to center them, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select all of them and just use the centering tool here. But shortcut, you can just press Ctrl+E simultaneously. But if you don't want to use the shortcut, the keyboard shortcuts, you can just select everything you want centered and then you just click here. So that is what you're supposed to have on the first page, which is now our cover page. According to them, the title should be in bold always. Okay, so make sure you boldface the title. And you should also start page 2, which is now the page with the text, with the answer. Start with the title again. So also repeat the title, which is in bold and centered. So it should be in bold and centered. So this is just the formatting bit of APA, how they want you to format your answer. Okay, so we have already mentioned that the first thing you need to do is to get the font right, which in this case is Times New Roman 12. And then the spacing should be double. You can just play around with this. We have single spacing, 1.15, 1.5 spacing, and 2.0. So 2.0 is what you are calling double, in this case, double spacing. So once you have this, the next thing is to insert the page numbers. So according to APA, they want you to insert the page numbers on the top right corner of the A4 paper. So top right, that should be somewhere here. So let us insert the page number. So to insert anything on this document, just go to Insert tab on the menu ribbon. So all this entire space, we call it the menu ribbon. So just go to Insert, and then you look for, we have insert shapes, icons, smart art, and charts. You know, you can insert all sorts of things, but at this point, we want to insert the page number. So just go to page number, and you click on it. They have several options. You can insert the page number. Okay, let me just admit. You can insert the page numbers on top of the page, bottom of the page, page margins, or current position. Okay. You can also just have your own location where you want to insert the page numbers. In this case, we are talking about top right. So they need the page number to be somewhere here. Let me just animate that so that they want the page number top right, which is somewhere here. So the page number should be somewhere here. So if you're aiming for that, we go to insert page number. We need it to be on top of the page, top of our page. And then on the right side, you can see in this case, the page number is on the left side. This page number is centered. This page number is on to the right. So we're going to pick this. So just click on it and it will insert there. It will insert there. So here are the page numbers. So we need page number to be on the top right corner of every page. You can see it is inserted on every page. So far, so good. Unless somebody has a question, we like to proceed to the next bit about APA. So another thing about APA that they are also specific about is the Intext citations. So let me just get something to use for demonstration. So let's say you are reading something on let me just social media, for example. Then I happen to be reading which article. Let me just open this one. So this doesn't have an author. Let me just pick another one that has. But we'll be demonstrating this bit again sometime. Does it have an author really? Yeah, we have this. So maybe you are doing some research and you came across this article, which was published on the bbc.com website. But the journalist, I believe, is Jessica Brown. So, and you happen to have borrowed some ideas from her, okay, about whatever you're writing about. According to APA, within the text, okay, within the paragraphs, within the sentences, within the text, you only need to identify the author's surname and the year that article was published. So at this point, you can just imagine, you can already guess that according to the American Psychological Association, the most important thing is for you to identify when the article was published. So you can see they are sort of interested in knowing if students are referring from obsolete material or recent material, material published recently. So let's say we were talking about something, and let me just delete this. Let me just assume this wasn't the author, okay? So if the ideas I've talked about here, presented here, I borrowed this idea, not copying directly, but just getting the idea and writing the ideas in my own words. Before you finish that paragraph or sentence, you're gonna open brackets, get the surname of that particular author. So in this case, the surname is Brown, I believe, yeah, Brown. And then the year the article was published is 2018. So that will be Brown. And then they want you to separate the year and the surname with a comma, 2018. And then closing brackets and then the full stop. So the full stop comes at the end after the sentence, not before the Intext citation. So what we call an Intext citation is basically this. So it's a citation within the text, hence Intext citation. So anyone reading this article will understand that whatever information you've presented in this paragraph or in this preceding sentence, the information is more or less like whatever Brown has claimed in her article. But this is not all, because you also need to identify to tell the reader which article is this, because with just the word Brown in 2018, I wouldn't know which article is this, who's Brown. I mean, there are so many Browns, even if we had only one Brown in the world, this Brown could have written, hundreds and thousands of articles. So which one are we specifically talking about? And that's where referencing comes in. Although we will go through that bit a little bit later, but let me just mention that once you insert an in-text citation here, the essence of inserting this in-text citation is to inform the reader that in case you needed to read more about these ideas, okay, the ideas are presented prior to me inserting this in-text, you can go and read more from this document, from a document written by Brown, published in 2018. So you need to put the full information about this article somewhere, okay, so that I can scroll to that page, get the full information about this article, including the URL, so that I can access that article and read about it if I needed to. So we are going to go to the last page, okay? So just write there references, but this process doesn't go like this. When we get to the referencing bit, it will become clear. But at this point, I'm just using it to demonstrate how APA want their referencing to look like. So according to APA, an author surname is more important. So all other names are usually just initialized. So only the surname is important. So in this case, the surname is Brown, separate by a comma, and then initialize all other names, okay? So in this case is Jessica, so we're gonna say J, okay? Because it's an initial, you must put that full stop there after the J to show that it's not a complete name, okay? It's a shortened name. And then if there were any other authors, we'll continue writing them there. Like we would just put a comma, put a, for example, if Wright was an author, we would have Wright J, for Jalea, and then we have maybe and, right?
You said what?
Pardon?
I didn't hear what you said the last part. I was listening, but I didn't hear the last part.
About referencing. Okay, let me just try to get it from this pointer. So once you are, you are writing, and because you are writing, you are referring to some documents online. Maybe you are reading a book to get the answers. Maybe you just went online, got an article which has the answer or has something you're looking for. So you're not going to copy directly, okay? But we'll do this bit a little bit later, where you paraphrase, put it in your own words, rearrange, and getting all that answer. But at this point, I just want you to understand the in-text citation bit of APA, okay, which we'll be practicing with until it sticks. So at this point, I don't want you to worry much. So according to APA, they only want within the text, because we can't put all the information about this article here, including the URL, the title of that article, where it was published. We can't put all of it here within this paragraph, because it will take too much away from the reader. It will interrupt the reading process, because going through a lot of text that are just not really important to the answer. So for that reason, they only ask you to write the surname of that author. So in this case, this article we were referring to, for example, it is just written by one author. If there were two or more, we would have, if there are two, we'll have their two surnames, okay? We'll have their two surnames, like, let's say we'll have Brown, and we use the ampersand instead of the usual and, okay? We use the ampersand. We don't write and in full, we just use the ampersand. So Brown and, let's say right, okay? And then we put a comma. So somebody reading this paragraph will understand that you are referring them to a book, an article, or a blog published by these two people. And it was published in 2018, okay? But this is not just enough. Okay, we need to also include the full information about this article, including the title, where it was published, the initial of the other names of these authors, and also the URL. I think I've already said that. So that once I get to this point and I feel like, whatever you have said here seems so important, let me just pause here, read more about this article. So what I'll do, I'll scroll down to your references to get the full information about that article so that I can read it more. Because with just these names, okay, I can't do much with it. I can't locate this article. I'll never find it. It'll take me forever to find it. So in this case, we didn't have two authors, just said Brown. So that's what I was explaining. According to APA, but don't worry about this because we will cover this a little bit later. I'm just trying to show you a skeleton of how an APA formatted paper should look like. So at this point, according to APA, they want you to just identify the surname, okay, like we did in the Intext citation. Please remember, whatever you have done here, this is what we call an Intext citation. It's a citation within the text. And then whatever you're doing here is now the full bibliographic information about the article. So everything that is within the text, you have cited within the text, we must have a corresponding entry in the reference section of the paper so that we can now see the full title of that document because it has a title. You can see it has a title, okay? We need this title to be somewhere there. And we need to know where was it published? Was it in a journal? Was it by a news media? We need to know all that, okay? So we're gonna go with Brown, and then we put a comma before their next names. But in this case, it was Brown Jessica Brown, that is. So obviously, if you are writing somebody's name and you want to initialize it, you have to put the dot, okay? No, if you're gonna, just the same way when you want to say Mr., you have to put that full stop there, the period, that to show that it's a shortened name, not the full one, Mr. Just a shortened. So the same way. So in this case, it's Jessica, comma, J. And then, because we don't have any other author, if we had another author, we would continue, we'll write their names again. We'll just write their surname. Like in this case, let's assume you are also an author there. So we'll take your surname, which I believe should be right, okay? And then comma, J, okay? And then now, if we had another one, we saw just do the same until we get to the last author. But in this case, we just had one author. So after you've written the author's name, the authors, and please, you only identify the authors using their surnames. You initialize all the other names, okay? So once you've identified the author, you need to open bracket, write the year, close the bracket, another period, and then you get the title. So the format generally is surname, period, okay? And then the year, close bracket, period, title, period, publisher, period, and then you have your URL. So that is the format of whatever you need to write in the reference section of your paper. According to APA, this is the format they accept. So we already had the surname, sorry, surname, comma, initial of the other name. Okay, we need the initial of the other names. Okay, so if there are two authors, we'll have surname, comma, initial, and surname, comma, initial for the second author. In this case, we only had one author. So the next thing we want to put here after the year is the title. So we go back and just copy the title. We put it there, and then the publisher. So the publisher, for you to get the publisher, you can just check the website's name, or you go at the bottom of the page, okay, so that you see who publishes this page in the about section, okay. But this happens to be loading, so you can see it's the BBC. So obviously it's the BBC that is the publisher. So it was published at the BBC. So after the period, just put their BBC period, and then you just check the URL, which is in the address bar. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy that don't worry about this process. It's easier. We have a software that does this for you. Just copy and paste the entire thing. Okay. So this will be on your references. So according to APA, the references should begin on a fresh page. Okay. So insert a page break here so that they are pushed to the page 4, which is the freshest page available. So this is what you have. You can see. So the first page is our title page, which has a title. Okay, and then skip few lines. Have your name, institution, course, instructor, date. And then when you come to the second page, you also start with your title. If it was an essay which we'll be going over, you start with an introduction, okay? Start with an introduction, introduce the topic, have a minimum of 3 body paragraphs, and then a conclusion. After the conclusion, now we go to the references section. So the word references, according to them, they want it to be bold. So I'm gonna bold it, okay, but paste it, and then it should be centered. And then if you had several entries on this reference list, you need to arrange them alphabetically. Okay, so let me just go and get another reference, okay, for demonstration purposes. So let's take this. Yes, so this one, let's say you are reading and then you got an idea from Walton, okay, maybe, you know, for let's say, which point, okay, so maybe let me just delete some Intext here, or let me just create instead of this, let me do this instead. I insert Walton, okay. Walton. Need to get the year. It is 2017. So that will be Walton, comma 2017, closing brackets. So somebody reading this paragraph will understand that whatever I've said, the sentences or paragraph or information preceding this in-text citation, I borrowed ideas from Walton, okay? But I also need to include the full bibliographic information about this particular article, book, or website or blog. So I'll again go to the reference section. As always, we start with the surname. So it's Walton, comma. So go and get the other name, Alice G. So AG. You're not going to write them in full, A, G. And then if we had other authors, we put a comma, continue listing them. In this case, you only have that. So it's 2017, closing bracket, we have a period. And then we take our title. So the publisher is Forbes magazine. Then we get the URL. The URL so that somebody reading this article, this paper of yours, if they happen, okay, if they happen to be interested to read more about the information here, they can refer to this article.
I'm sorry, I had to leave. I had to take a call.
It's okay. It's okay. So if I was reading your paper and I came across this in-text citation and I happen to want to know more, okay, I'll just scroll to the reference section, okay, to Walton, because, you know, I have the surname Walton, and that is also the first name that is appearing on the list, Walton. So I'll just click on this link. It will launch. It will load the page, and I can read more if I wanted to. So the other thing about APA is that let's assume you had 10 entries here, and because there are 10 entries, it's very hard for you to locate this particular author here, Walton. So one of the things they do to make it easy for readers to identify what they are looking for in the reference list is that you arrange these items alphabetically. So brown comes before W, B comes before W in the alphabetical order. So in this case, we don't have to rearrange. It's already, naturally. But let's say we had this one before that. So arranging them alphabetically will allow readers to locate them easily, because if it was let's say we had multiple citations, okay, and we are looking for this particular one, we'll just scroll until where W begins, and then we start looking for it there. It becomes easier for us to locate it if you want to read more about it. So to arrange, you don't have to do it manually, like counting A, B, C, D to identify which one comes before which. Okay, so you can just select all the entries and then use the sorter tool, okay, on the Office. But I believe all other document creating softwares also have this function somewhere. So just have to look for it. So just sort, just click the sorter and then sort by paragraph. Make sure it's by text. You can sort by date, by number, anything, but in this case, we need to sort by the text, like Walton, Brown, Evo, and that. So make sure it's also ascending, which means from A to Z. Then just click OK. You can see it has automatically rearranged. It has taken Brown above Walton. So that is one of the things we do to make it easy for readers to locate resources in the reference section. The other thing that also makes it easier is to make the surnames more visible, okay, to isolate the surnames from the rest of the text. So for the Brown entry, we need to sort of push the other things ahead a little bit so that the name Brown appears more conspicuously. So we do that by indenting this. We use hanging indentation so that from Facebook, H, and the T, the 3 lines begin somewhat more to the right, okay? So you just select all the entries you have, and then you go to the paragraph tool. You can see there's a drop-down menu here. It just indicates that there were other things that they wanted to put here, but this space wasn't enough, so they put them down here. So you can click here to access them. So you go to indentation over here. So under special, you can see at the moment it's on none, but we have 2 other options, first line, and we also have hanging. So first line is the one we use for paragraphs, which means the first line of every paragraph should begin indented. Okay, but we don't want first line, because if you did first line, what it will do, it will push forward the first line, which is now the line beginning with the word Brown. But what we want only the first line to remain on the margin and all other lines of the paragraph, because the software assumes this is a paragraph because we clicked the enter key before starting this other entry. So whenever you click the enter key on your keyboard, the software understands you're starting a new paragraph, even when you're just doing a line. So according to the software language, even this line is a paragraph, because when we wanted to, to start writing on these other lines, we clicked the enter key. So that's just a software language. So whenever you click a enter key, the software understands you want to start a new paragraph. So it treats this as a paragraph. So what we need only the first line to remain on the margin, on this margin, and the others to be moved further to the right by half an inch. So if I was going to draw a straight line here, what I'm talking about is that only the word Brown should be on the margin. This one should be, the other 3 lines, this line and this one should be further to the right. So we do that by using the hanging indentation. So in this case, we select everything, and then we go to the indentation menu, and then on the special, we use hanging, and then make sure it's by half an inch. So I don't know, for some reason, some computers, are set to use centimeters. You can, if it happens, if you ever come across that, you can just, Google how to, change Office Word from centimeters to inches. It will give you a simple step to do, but you can also ask me. But in this case, I have inches here, so I'm okay. So just click OK. and it will do the magic. So you can see only the first line of these two paragraphs. This is one paragraph, this is another paragraph. Only the first lines, okay? Because the paragraph has how many lines? Has 4 lines. It has the first line with brown, second line starting with Facebook, third line starting with HTTPS, the last line starting with evidence. So in this case, you can see only the first line starts on the margin, okay? The other 3 begin further to the right. So we just push them by half an inch. You can see what we did. We just push all the lines inside. So this just makes the surname more visible. Okay, in this case, it's not a big problem, but assume we had many entries here. Just making the surnames more visible makes this entire article easily conspicuous to the reader. So if I was reading your article, I came across this Intext citation and I'm interested to learn more about the points you've discussed above in this paragraph, I can just stop here, scroll to the reference page. I'll quickly identify the surname Brown because number 1, you have arranged it alphabetically, so I can just go where B begins. Number 2, the surnames have been made to be more conspicuous because they hang outside, okay? They hang outside. So if I draw a straight line, you can see the surnames sort of just hang outside. They are not in line with the rest of the text. So that's what we do. So the process is pretty simple. If you're using Word, if you didn't want to go through this process of, many clicks, just use Control+T, press Control and T simultaneously, it will do that, the magic. So, but don't worry about these processes. We'll learn. I have the shortcut keys. I'll share with you all the shortcuts that you can use to make things a lot easier. So here we have fairly formatted. This is just formatting. It doesn't have anything to do with the research. We haven't learned that yet. I just felt that it's important for us to learn about formatting first before learning any other thing, so that since we're going to be using some of the samples you have, some of the samples I already have, it becomes easier when we start learning about research, because we'll be researching and writing answers and formatting them. Okay, so at this point, the only thing that we haven't included in this is headings, section headers. So maybe you wanted to, have a heading for this point, starting with pata. Maybe you wanted to have another heading, for this paragraph. So we have several levels of heading that we will learn later. You will learn later, but primarily, if you are having a heading, you wanted to use a section header in your paper, make sure the header is in bold so that we know it's a heading and not just a sentence. So make sure it is bold. But we have several levels, okay? For example, level 1 should be centered. Like in this case, this is a level 1 heading. Level 2, it should be on the margin, on the left margin, and not centered, that is. Level 3, on the left margin, but you italicize. So whenever I see it, I can know this is a level. This is level 1, level 2, but don't worry about that now. I think I'll explain that later when we learn about headings. Today, we are just learning about the formatting alone. So you can see, just to run you through what we have discussed, is that APA 7th edition, this is the most current edition, they want you to have a cover page. So the cover page is separate from the rest of the paper, okay? So in the cover page, you include the title, which should be about 4 lines. Okay, I'll share some notes. I have some notes about 4 lines from the top. Okay, about 4 lines, write the title. And then about 3 lines after the title, okay, you just write the rest of the information line after line. So just write the rest line after line. So just write the name, institution, course, instructor, and date. You write your name, not just the name. Just write your name. The student's name. Student's name comes here. The name of the institution, you write it here. The name of the course and the code. Okay, the code and the course name comes here, and then the name of the instructor, and then the due date. Okay, the date of submission or the due date given for the assignment. so that the lecturer can know if you are submitting late, you're turning in your papers late. So with a question about all this, it's just the formatting, how you format your answers. So generally, the point is that if a professor or the lecturer gives you an assignment, everybody is going to have the papers looking more or less the same, okay, in terms of the structure, not the content really, but in terms of structuring the paper. Everybody will have a cover page that looks more or less the same. So lecturer, if the lecturer wanted to know the student's name, he or she will just know where to find it. Because if we do not have this standard, some people will write their names elsewhere and it won't be standardized. So we can't work with that. But at this point, if the lecturer needed to know your name, they'll know where to find it in this paper. If they wanted to know something else, they'll equally just know where to find it. They'll know this is a title. So formatting basically just makes it easy for lecturers to receive more or less formatted, similarly formatted papers. Okay, the references are looking similar, although they might be different. I might refer to Walton, somebody else might refer to somebody else. It doesn't have to be all the same, but at least the formatting, the way they've been arranged, the way they appear is the same. So that is the essence of having your papers formatted. So does anyone have a question? So we learn more, like what happens when there are more than two authors, what happens when I've read an article online and it doesn't have a date. They did not indicate when the article was published. You've read an article and there's no identified author. Okay, we learn about that. What happens if there are several authors altogether? So we also have corporate authors. Corporate authors means it's just a company writing. So the company is the author in that case. So in that case, you just assume, for example, if this article was written by Apple, we just have Apple into bracket 2018. We'll be going through all that. So, but this is just a general outlook of how APA looks like, but we'll cover more as we continue. I think next time we'll go to research where we'll see how to do oral citations, where you use according to so-and-so. In this case, you realize you just placed it, say, Intext citation at the end of a sentence, but sometimes you might need to start with the citation, announcing early on in the paper that, in the sentence, that the idea I'm going to talk about is not mine. In this case, the reader will only know that the idea wasn't entirely yours when they reach at this point. Okay, but sometimes you can start with according to Brown. Zelili Miriam Makeba was a South African musician, writer, actress, and activist. So we'll be looking into all that. So anyone with a question or an observation, should we take a break and then we come back and see what we can do next?
What do you mean by a break?
Like just a 10-minute breather, and then we come back to learn about something else.
How long is the break?
I don't know if you need it. If you need it, if you don't need it, we can just continue. But this is not the end of me talking about the formatting. Okay. All the papers we will be doing henceforth will be formatted. So we'll be doing it together. So you will be seeing, and I think, seeing it over and over will just allow you to internalize and memorize and to just help you, master everything that involves formatting. So I don't think you need to worry at this stage. It's just the beginning of everything. So I felt like starting with the formatting will make it easier, so that, because when you go to research, okay, when you're doing research, we need to, the moment we read an article at that particular time, and we feel like we're going to use these ideas, before we forget, because you might open several websites. When you're doing research, you don't just need open the first article alone. You might open this one best because maybe the title of this article was interesting, and then you might also decide to open the other one. So you might open several of them. And the easiest way to remember is to immediately just put down the author's name, everything, so that you don't forget, because you might get an idea from this article and this article. How do you, remember which idea was from which author if you don't do it just right there and then when you write that idea? So the moment you've written somebody else's idea, before you move on to the next thing, just credit them by inserting the in-text citation after that idea before you go to the next idea, because you might close that window, you might close that website, and you might not remember. So when you are doing research, you will be doing that. And I felt before we start doing that, I need you to understand the formatting. So when I do that, when you see me, copying Brown's name and inserting it in the in-text, you understand what I'm doing. But the research part of it is quite wide, okay? And I felt like we're gonna spend some more time on that. So I'll be sharing some notes about formatting and everything. I think I'm gonna have to restart the Zoom because I only have like 3 minutes left. I'm gonna have to restart it. So you can just click back on the link. I'll just leave. Okay, the meeting will look like it is ended, but if you just click the link I shared earlier, you will be back in.